What's up, Internet? My name is Michael Cook, and this is Blue Giant Media. We're here to help you find, learn, and play the games that you love. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Roll Player. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the game after a quick rules overview. I'm going to let you know what I do like, what I don't like, and who may like and who may not like Roll Player by Keith Matejka and published by Thunderworks Games. Here we have Roll Player set up for 2 players. So in the setup, you're going to choose one of many different races, and there's a male and female side for all of them. Each race has slightly different statistics, like the dwarves have a little bit higher constitution but a little less charisma. So you can have a little bit of a slightly different starting hand, if you will. And then you're also going to be given an alignment card, which is going to have different ways to score points at the end of the game. A class card, which is going to give you a special ability, as well as designate a color that you will score points for every 1 die of that color in your statistics. You're also going to get a prescribed set of statistics that you want to try and hit in order to score points. And then you're also going to get a backstory that has flavor text, and then a different alignment or arrangement of dice in each of the 6 colors. And if you match those at the end of the game, you will get varying amounts of points based off of how closely you match it. So the winner at the end of the game is going to be the player with the most points. To start the game, you're going to have 6 dice for a 2-player game and more for the other number of players. You're going to have the number of players plus 1 initiative cards here, and the number of players plus 1 market cards out as well. Each player will start with 5 dice plus 2 dice for every yellow, or 2 coins for every yellow die that you have in your player board. And you're also going to, if you fill the final spot in any of your rows, each one of those that gets filled up either at the beginning of the game or as the game progresses will give you 1 extra coin. And then you're ready to start. You'll designate a start player, and each round will have you rolling, having the active player, which will be me right now, rolling the dice and then placing them in increasing value. If there's a tie, then the active player is going to choose how to arrange them. So like if these were both 3s, I could put them whichever way I want, but this was a 4. And you'll see any card that is not on the outside is going to get a coin. So if there's more players, then you will have this flipped over and a 4 out there, and both the 2 and the 3 card would have a coin on them. Then I would be the first one to get to choose. So I can choose a die. If I choose the one in the middle, I get to take a coin. But I may not want to just go for the higher valued die, because whoever has the lowest number in initiative will be the first one to buy at the market. So you have to weigh a little bit of what you might want from the market. If there's something that you desperately need, you might want to get a lower value die to make sure that you can buy that. The cards in the market are going to do a lot of different things. Weapons usually have ways to either get you more gold, make your gold more efficient, or work for you better. The trait cards, as soon as you buy them, they will move your alignment cube one direction or another. Like this one says to move it down. If you are already stuck at the bottom, you can still buy a trait card. It just pegs out there and stays put. But they will give you points at the end of the game. Like this one says, gain 2 points for each attribute row with 3 of the same colored dice. So if you end up getting 3 black dice here, then you're going to get 2 bonus points, and you get that for every single row that has 3 of the same color. So maybe you might want to swap this for this, or put this over here as the game goes on so that you can try and get several of them in the same row. Then there are skill cards. Skill cards give you abilities that you can use throughout the game. Every time you use them, it will move your alignment cube. So this pickpocketing will move your alignment cube down towards evil. So this says decrease the face value of 1 die on your character sheet by 1 and gain 2 gold. So you could turn your 6 to a 5 to gain 2 gold. And the thing with these, once you get them, you have the ability to use them. Whenever you use them, you exhaust that card. At the end of every round, that card will get 1 card. So if you had 4 of these different skill cards and they were all exhausted, only one of them is going to become ready for the next round. But at the end of each round, 1 will become ready. So every time you place a die into any of these spaces, based off what attribute you are filling, you are going to get a special ability. So for strength, you get to flip a die over. 6 to 1, 1 to 6, 5 to 2, 2 to 5, etc. Dexterity lets you swap the places of any 2 dice. Constitution lets you lower the value of one die to increase the value of another. Intelligence, you get to re-roll a die. If you don't like the value that you got, you can go back to the original result. Wisdom, every time you place a die, will move your alignment cube 1 space. And Charisma, whenever you play that, you will get to take one of these discount tokens, which means that you have a little bit of extra charisma for bargaining at the market this round only. You can't save it for future rounds. Now you've got a decent grasp of the rule set for Roll Player. I'm going to let you know what I do like about the game first. I, first of all, love the fact that it uses dice in a way that is very low luck. Another game that does this very well is Alien Frontiers. It's one of my favorite games as well. I like games where after you roll the dice, then you get to make the decisions, rather than you make a decision and roll the dice to see whether that decision worked or not. I like that I get to make a decision after the randomness has been involved. And on top of that, I have a smorgasbord, a plethora of different ways to manage that luck. So depending on, as you lay the dice out, you get to decide which one of them you want. So there's the drafting element, so you're not stuck with, unless they somehow all roll a number that you don't like, you're not stuck with any of them. You get to choose one out of several different options. Then, after you get that die, depending on where you place it, you will have the ability to flip it over, add, subtract, re-roll, all kinds of different things. Swap the position of them. Maybe there's also some instances where you want low numbers because as the game goes on, you might get a trait that you want to be stupid or weak or lacking charisma, and so it might be in your best interest to have low numbers. So I also like the games where Steampunk Rally does this very well too, where a high number can be good in some situations and a low number could be good in some situations. So I think they do a really good job of managing that, and I do really like games that have dice with very low luck. I always think it's very clever, and I enjoy the puzzle, which is another thing I enjoy a lot about this game, is how puzzly it is. Every time you get a die, there are so many different possibilities. You can decide whether you place this now and flip it now, or do you place this now and flip that one that you maybe saved for later? Do you place it somewhere else with the anticipation of swapping the color so that you can complete some of your backstory a little bit more? And I love the puzzly nature of it. I love the puzzly nature of it. I really like the fact that it's got a very solid solo game to it. It's the type of game where you can just set it out and you can play a quick game, and it takes very little time. It's still very difficult. You try and push to you're competing to get the best high score that you've gotten before. But you just get to find these different combos and different things. I like games that have a solo element, and this one's really solid. I also really like the replayability. How many different races, they all have a little bit of a different strength and weakness to them, but they also, as you get the different alignment cards, the different backstory cards, the different trait cards, there's so many possibilities every time you play that it's always going to be a little bit different. And I really like games that have that much replayability. I don't like games that are kind of that zero-sum game where you, like chess, where you know exactly all the information and it's just trying to figure out how best to do that. I like games that are a little bit more tactical. There's still that strategic element to them, so I really like that about this. And the last thing that I'll touch on is that the art is very nice. There's not too much to say about that other than I like the art. Things that I don't like. Some of the things with how puzzly it is, I feel like you can never do enough, which in some ways that's a mark of how good the game is. You always want to do a little bit more. So there's that. I feel like intelligence and charisma have just the benefits that you get for placing dice into those is just too weak. Intelligence, you just re-roll a die. That sort of puts itself on the other side of what I like so much about the game, how you don't get screwed over by a bad die roll. And in this case, you don't get screwed over by it, but it's underwhelming, because if you roll something poor, and you're like, okay, well, just keep the number that I had before. And it's just as if nothing happened. That's underwhelming to me. It's just, of the 6 different possibilities that you have when you place dice, intelligence with just a simple re-roll, and charisma with an extra money that must be used this round and this round only. I just think that's really weak, because if in the case of charisma, if you don't like anything that's there, but you were just forced to put a die there because it was the best spot for you this round, well, are you going to buy a card that maybe you didn't want, or are you just going to still go ahead and discard a card for 2 coins? it's just I think that they're just the two weakest of them. That's nitpicking a little bit, but it does bother me just a touch. I'd also need a little bit of testing for this, but I feel like some of the combos are a little bit too strong. Recently I played a game where I was an orc thief, I believe it was. Or was it a wizard? I don't remember what the combination was. I took note of it, but it synergized so well to the point where I easily crushed my high score for solo. And I was like, wow, I need to experiment a little bit more with that, but I felt like that was a little bit too strong. There's just might be some combinations that fit a little bit too well. So, but that's just my initial feel after playing the game, I don't know, 10 or so times. So I don't have massive numbers of reps under my belt for this, but I feel like that was something that was worth at least mentioning. So the people who will like this game, you will like this game if you like dice games. If you love rolling dice, the Dice Chuckers are going to enjoy this. If you enjoy RPGs and you just like that feel of it, this is just going to capture a little bit of that, and you're going to have your imagination just sparked a little bit. And I think that that's something that it's going to resonate with you. So definitely RPG fans, I feel, will enjoy this quite a bit. I also think that people who like the kind of crunchy, puzzly aspect in a game where you can sit there and be like, okay, if I put this here, that gives me that, but if I put this, that kind of puzzling out aspect, if you're a big fan of that kind of game, you're going to like this game because you have that every single turn. People who will not like this game are people who have analysis paralysis. So if you do not like, or people who don't like playing with people who have analysis paralysis, this is a game where I've played before with some people who will sit there and agonize over every move, and a 3-player game turned into a 2+ hour game, and it really shouldn't be that long. So it dragged on a little bit because it's easy to overanalyze the many possibilities. So if you're the kind of person who wants to get every move perfect and you want to think a whole bunch of steps ahead, you can't do that. And it's going to bother you to no end that you have not perfect control over this kind of thing. So take that into account. I definitely would prefer not to play this game with people who have analysis paralysis because it's just going to make it drag on, and then either you will start to like the game less, or they, if it's their first game, are just going to say, well, that game just took too long, when in reality it was their fault. And then lastly, some people might find that it's a little bit anticlimactic. Like a Dungeons & Dragons game, you've spent the last hour or so re-rolling a new character, and then it's over. So for them, I would say there's an expansion. So the expansion for this game, there's one out at the time of this filming, that is Monsters and Minions. There is also Adventures, which has been announced, and that will be coming out as well. They take the character and they add a kind of combat element to it. That happens a little bit through the game, but also at the end of the game. You're building up to fight a boss. So one thing that I will say right off the bat that bothers me about that expansion is that it adds back in the luck that I'm so glad is not in the game. That's a personal thing. I don't like saying, okay, I'm going to go fight the guy, and I roll the dice and say, oh, well, I lost. That's the kind of thing that bothers me a lot about a lot of games. But to its credit, the expansion does have a way to plan ahead and make sure you just have a massive number of dice. So you can still mitigate it. But if you feel that it's too anticlimactic to have rolled a character and spent that whole time to build up this backstory in your mind and get all these traits and then just have it done, then maybe you just want to get the expansion right away. But keep that in mind, and I think that those are pretty much the pluses and minuses as far as I see them. And this concludes my thoughts on Role Player by Keith Matejka and published by Thunderworks Games. If you want to know more about this game, see a setup, a playthrough, rules overview that's a little bit more in-depth, look for a link in the description section below. And you'll also find a link there to MacroNovaGames.com where you can buy Role Player and many other great games. If there's any questions that you have about this game or any recommendations for other videos that I should make, by all means, please let me know in the comments section below. And while you're there, if you just want to have some dialogue and connect with me, I would love that. Until next time, I want to thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what you see, and as always, have a wonderful day.